Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to the SEMO Sports Zone presented by A-Corp Sports. You're watching this on Monday, September the 8th. David, week two's over.
Yeah, we're moving right through this real quick, aren't we?
Yeah, I'd say so. What did you think about this week?
It's another week to get a look at some of the teams, and I think that we're finding out a little bit more about some of the teams. I was surprised by some of the results, and other results it was just kind of reaffirmed what we already knew. But yeah, I think that there were a few surprises this week, and I think that's a lot of coaches will say that week 1 to week 2, that's where you're going to see your most improvement, and we definitely saw that with some of these teams. Do you think it was a lot of improvements, or do you think we saw some backslides? I think I'm gonna go with improvements. We'll say we'll go that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, it could be some backslides, but I think for the most part, I'm gonna be positive right now and say that we saw a lot of improvements for some teams.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of the name of the game at this point. Is that for a lot of teams, it's reaffirming yourself. It's you're 2-0. You know who you are. You're kind of up in that upper echelon. And then for some teams, it's a week to week struggle. And just in week 2, you're gonna start seeing that like the bell curve of where you're at.
Yeah, some teams are just trying to find themselves right now, trying to figure out what works best, and you're just trying to get yourself ready for that district run. And other teams, they kind of know what they're doing and know how they want to how they want to proceed here, and they're just trying to build off that. And so that's so you usually have those two different types.
Is there any team that sticks out to you right now that you would highlight and just say like, okay, this is the team that really surprised me this week?
I think East Prairie really surprised me this week, coming off that loss to Scott City. I think that them, performing as well as they did against New Madrid, that kind of surprised me. And of course, Kelly beating Scott City. That was another one that was kind of surprising. It's not shocking. It's not a huge shock, but I mean, because Kelly is a good football program. I mean, Coach Powers has it going pretty well over there. So them winning that game is not just a complete shock, but I think we all kind of thought that, Scott City, with the Chaffee kids coming in, that they had a really good, that they just had a really good advantage in that game, and Kelly just took it to them.
Yeah, especially after last week, we kind of thought Scott City was like, okay, that's a pretty for real team.
Right.
I think the thing about Kelly is Kelly's always a sleeper, and in some ways, they're not the most consistent as far as winning goes, but they're always one that I don't feel like you can ever look on your schedule and just be like, that's an easy win, because they're very scrappy, like all the time.
Oh, absolutely. They're scrappy. They're going to try to drag you into their type game. They like to run the ball. They're not a team that's going to be throwing it all over the place. They like to run it and kind of slow the game down a little bit. And they're going to try to make you kind of play their type game. And that's exactly what they did against Scott City. And they were able to pull it out.
All right. You want to go ahead and get into score area or area scores?
Let's do it.
All right. First up, I've got Doniphan at Saxony Lutheran 735.
Yeah. Saxony's not bad for a first-year program. They've got a real deal at quarterback there in Kai McDowell. They have a pretty good offensive line. They've got some size on the offensive and defensive line. They've got some playmakers. I mean, that's a pretty good football team right there. And I'm anxious to see them play a really good team down the line to see how they really match up. But Doniphan at the same time is much improved. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a better team than we saw 2 years ago. And they're definitely on the way up. I mean, they have a lot of younger guys there that I think are going to be good players too. But Saxony, I mean, they look good. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, what we saw from McDowell was he can throw the ball, he can run the ball, but at the same time, and it's just like for a Class 1 school, especially, that's huge. And the depth they have. I was talking to a friend about this. If they're a Class 1 school now, they're not going to be a Class 1 school for long. They are. They're setting a tone for themselves very quickly with this new program.
Oh, absolutely. And, you talk about McDowell. I saw his dad play whenever he was in high school and college, and he's one of the best high school quarterbacks I've ever seen. And there's a lot of the same same traits that Kai has that his dad had. He's aware in the pocket and can throw, can make all the throws and has a lot of touch on his throws as well. So
and has a lot of time to throw it.
Yeah, that helps. That helps a lot whenever you have an offensive line that gives you that much time. So again, I want to see somebody who gets after him a little bit and see when he's under a lot of pressure, see what he does. But what I've seen from them in the first 2 games, I like, and they have a Sparta team that's a little bit down this week too, so they should they should be 3-0 and I think rolling. I think I said at the beginning of the season, I think they get 6 wins at least, and I stand by that.
And for Donovan too, I would just consider this as like that. The score disparity on the scoreboard, I don't feel like reflected what the game actually was. I feel like Donovan's defense was very good at holding Saxony in places. Yeah,
they were. And again, they are much improved. They've got that Putman kid who's really good. And, they were missing a couple guys as well that game. So hopefully they get back. And then, so you're going to have, this Donovan team is not one that you look at on your schedule and be like, oh, easy win like it used to be. I think this is a Donovan team that's going to cause some teams some problems, and they can, like you said, defensively they don't look bad, and then offensively they have the ability to put some points on the board.
Absolutely. Moving on, we got Porterville at Hayti, 20-42.
Yeah, this was Porterville led this game in the third quarter. They were up, and Hayti finally they had about 3 big plays there in the third quarter to kind of get ahead, and that's kind of what we expect from them, is to use their athletic ability and their speed to make these big plays. But it took them a while. Turnovers, penalties, that kind of bit them, early in this game, and finally they were able to pull it out. But they've got to get that cleaned up, to be as good as we think they can be. But I still think they're probably the favorite in that Class 1 district. But again, they've got to clean some stuff up. But then they have some explosive ability, and in about a 6 or 7 minute span, they got 3 big touchdowns, all like 45 plus yards, and that's what we expect to see from them.
As a Portersville fan, is it time to start getting worried about?
I don't think so. I mean, I like they had a lot of fight. They just don't have the speed to keep up with what Hayti brought. I don't think it's time to worry about Portersville yet. I mean, they show the ability that they're going to be a team that is not going to be easily overlooked, and I think they're going to be okay. I mean, they've got a couple of tough games to start the year. But I think they'll be all right.
That seems like a tough shake for a lot of people in the area too. It's just, your team is like you're starting to kind of rebuild a little bit, new coaching situation, things like that. And then you just got 2 tough games to front load your season.
Yeah, I think they're one of the teams that's still trying to figure out, how they want to go about their business, but yeah, they've got some players there. Again, they had the lead in this game in the third quarter. They just couldn't hold them off, and I think that's going to come. I think they're going to be fine. And, they may not be a district champion team this year, but I think they're a team that's going to be a tough out at the end of the year. And I think they're just going to continue to get better. They've got some younger kids there that'll be okay.
All right. Next up, we've got Kennett at Paragould, 28-42.
Yeah, Paragould's a good team, and they're a big, strong team, and they just kind of ran it right at Kennett. And, Kennett's just not quite there yet. Mm-hmm. They are much improved from last year, much improved. And Ty Jones he's a playmaker at quarterback, and make some things happen for them, but they just couldn't handle the running game of Paragould. Paragould, they're just big, strong kids, and they'll run it left, run it right, run it up the middle. They just know what they're doing. They've had that program going for a while now, and Kennett stuck with them for a while. They just it was just too much. Yeah,
I think if you're going to take a loss like this, it's better to do it now, early, and 2, take it against a team that's out of state.
Yeah. And I mean, and Paragould's a good team. They're a playoff team down in Arkansas. They, and again, they're big, strong kids, and you're just in the first year with Coach Wyatt back, and he's going to build them and get them bigger and stronger. So this is a game that I'm sure they'll circle for next year and try to get back at them.
Well, does that say anything to the score at this point that you were able to score 28 on this team?
Yeah, I mean, because last year they couldn't score, or they didn't score at all against them, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like a 36-0 game. So I think, that the signs are all there and all positive for Kennett. You're coming off an 0-10 year. You can't expect to come come back and be 10-0 this
Right.
year. But I think they've made drastic improvements in what I've seen. And again, Ty Jones, boy, he's a playmaker at quarterback. He makes some good throws, and they've got some younger guys that have some explosive ability. So I think this is going to be a team that in the next couple of years is going to be a tough team to play.
Now we'll have to keep them on our radar, because Kennett is always, the past couple of years have been that big disparity of just like where they come from. But I've always known Kennett as being like, okay, that's a big team to play.
Yeah, I think we're going to get back to there pretty quick.
Next up, we've got Malden at Crothersville, 0-61.
Yeah, Crothersville just kind of took care of business. Before we really talk about this game, we do want to send our prayers to Crothersville with Jeremy Abrams, who did all their games on the radio stuff, and he passed away. So prayers to family and friends of him. But back to the game, yeah, Crothersville, I mean, they did what they wanted. I mean, they just kind of dominated this game, and Malden is I mean, they've been outscored 122-0 so far this year. Just a tough start.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard because there's not much to talk about with this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Crothersville did what they wanted to do, move to next week, and move on.
I do think it's funny because now we're seeing the instance of just like, all right, for Malden, it's where do you go? It's how do you improve, and what team do you play that you can kind of measure yourself now?
Yeah, they've got to figure something out offensively and defensively. I mean, they've just got to figure something out. I mean, they have athletes. They have athletes out there. They've got some guys that look the part, but I just don't know. I just don't know what's missing right there. They just need something good to happen. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Next up, we've got Potosi Charleston, 39-8.
Man, Potosi's got a kid named Noah Walton who he can run. I think he had a 92-yard run in the first quarter. He had like a 50-yard run in the first quarter. He probably had close to 200 yards in the first quarter alone. They ran for 422 yards against Charleston and dominated the line of scrimmage, which kind of surprised me because I thought Charleston, they've got some big, strong guys on the line, but Potosi was able just to run. They got an early lead. I think they were up 19-0 in the first quarter, kind of held that, and it really was, just kind of, held Charleston off the rest of the way. And Potosi's not a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good team. And Charleston just never could get going.
Is this a game for Charleston that now we have to kind of see what improvements we have to make?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, you got to get better, and that's the thing. You got to get better. But line of scrimmage, I was just surprised that Potosi had that kind of success on the line of scrimmage. But again, Charleston's a Class 1 school. Potosi's a Class 3. So I mean, you would think that Potosi would have the advantages in some of those areas. But I think Charleston will get better. I don't know much about the coach there, but one thing about it, Charleston was not like, out of position or things like that. It was just that the other team just looked bigger and stronger.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's the only thing that separates, for high schoolers especially, is there just a little bit more of a growth spurt on one side of the ball than the other.
Yeah, and so I'm not too concerned with Charleston yet. I mean, Potosi just is a lot better than what I thought they were, to be honest. And they lost their first game to I think it was Owensville, but apparently Owensville's pretty good to beat this team because they look pretty good.
And then next up, I've got Scott City at Kelly, 14-16.
Yeah, this is a big win for Kelly. We kind of mentioned it earlier. A big pass play, like I think it's a 50-yard pass play there with about 2 minutes left to play, and then they hit the 2-point conversion after a couple of illegal false start penalties or something there to push them back where they had to go for two, and they were able to get it. And just a big win for Kelly. Happy for them. They've got a lot of younger guys on there, so a lot of juniors and sophomores that are playing big for them. And Scott City, you got to look at Scott City like what happened here.
Yeah.
They were so high last week after beating East Prairie, and you go down to Kelly and you kind of you don't get it done. So
is that just one of this? Did we buy too much stock in Scott City too fast?
Maybe. It's kind of early in the year, so it's tough to tell. But at this point, I feel like I did. But at the same time, it's also a big win for Kelly. Maybe we kind of sold Kelly a little short. Because they're using so many newer players. So, it's probably a mixture of both. But Scott City's, they've got the ability. They've got a quarterback. They've got a running back. They've got a line that should be okay. So, I'm not super worried about Scott City, but you got to get back and you got to get in the, get back and improve. But I thought Kelly dominated the line of scrimmage in this game, and which was surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, for Scott City, you can take this as a get back to reality game, but for Kelly, I mean, this is a great win.
Yeah, and you kind of build off of it. When you replace a lot of starters like they did, I think they replaced like 8 starters on offense, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot of starters to replace.
Yeah, you're basically a fresh team,
right? And they were doing a really nice job with coming back. And I knew they returned. The starters they returned were on the line for the most part, and they've got some guys, and that offensive line just dominated. And defensive line as well. They did a really nice job, and so good for them. And again, Coach Powers, he knows what he wants to do. He wants to run the ball, run that clock. He's not in any hurry. They're not running a lot of hurry up. So, I mean, and again, that's just the way they play, and that way they play just kind of Scott City kind of played that same style. And I felt like that Kelly just won the game and a good win.
Yeah. Like you said, great win. Moving on, we got St. Charles West at Cape Central, 7-26.
Yeah, Cape Central, they kind of found Izzy Bridges and Torrance Murphy, just kind of the running backs to fill in for Boyd, and they've got a really good defense, and that defense is kind of what I think they're going to lean on this year. I mean, their offense looked better, than it did the week before, but also I think they were playing a team that maybe wasn't as good as New Madrid. So, we'll find out a little bit more about Cape Central this week, but I really like their defense. I really like their defense, and offensively, I think they're getting better. They're finding, they've got a sophomore quarterback. They've got some younger guys there that they're kind of leaning on. So. But I think the defense is the strength of this team, and the wins that they get, I think, are going to be kind of spurred on by that defense.
I think this was the perfect game Cape Central needed, especially after last week. They just needed a game to, one, find themselves and find what their offense is going to be without Keyshawn Boyd. Where they go from there, I mean, that's going to be the big thing. Is when you go up against bigger teams in the area, especially, you're going to be tested a lot more, and. They needed this game to kind of just start their process of rebuilding at that point.
Right. You want that. First, the thing you don't want is to have your big star get hurt and then you lose the next game. You want to have some confidence, like, hey, we can do this without him. It's fine. So I think this was a big game for that.
Yeah, and I think they found that too.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any issue that Cape has at this point that they can't win games.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
And then moving on to New Madrid, we got New Madrid County Central at East Prairie, 44-40.
Yeah, this was a shootout, and it was a heck of a game. Went down to the end. New Madrid made some plays down at the end of the game to win it. But East Prairie showed a ton of improvement from week one. Of course, Coach Penrod he's kind of got New Madrid's number a little bit. Even when he was with Portageville, he's able to use some physicality. Use that run game. Tavion Ware, 44 carries. That's a lot of carries, and that is a ton of carries. That's not sustainable for a whole season, but for that game it was, and 262 yards, 44 carries.
I'd say he's getting reps in.
Yeah, 5 touchdowns. I mean that's a night, and but East Prairie plays so hard, and so I really like what I saw from them. New Madrid. I'm going to take back what I said about their defense. I'm backing off that defense that I was kind of praising, but at the same time, their offense, they've got the big playability. They've got a quarterback who can get the ball to. Of course, you got Charlie Rosano running the ball. Then you got a quarterback who can get the ball to his receivers, Jaquan Jones and Jalen Williams, and Malachi Hughes had a big play in this game as well. I mean, they've got some big play guys, so I think that's kind of like a normal New Madrid team. They're a team that can be very explosive, and that's what they were in this game, and ended up pulling out the win. Well,
and I think it's probably entertaining to watch shootouts every time your team goes to the field, but at the same time, defense wins championships.
Yeah. I want to see that defense get better. It wasn't too bad against Cape Central, but then Cape Central, they lost their one of their best player, and they kind of I felt like they kind of went a little vanilla in that game. So I don't know. We'll find out a lot more about New Madrid as this season goes on about if that defense is better.
And at that point, you gotta sheer up the ability to stop a run game, because that's what we do here around here is we run the football.
Yeah, a lot of running teams around here. You're gonna have to stop it, and you're gonna have to get in there and fill some gaps on the offensive line or on the defensive line. Because that's again, like you said, a lot of teams around here like to run it.
Then we've got Louisville Ballard at Jackson, 10-32.
Yeah, Jackson pulled away in this one. Jackson's just good, man. They are really good. And, I don't know a lot about this Ballard team, but if a team's coming all the way here from Louisville, Kentucky, you would think that they're a pretty good team. And
this was a loss last year for Jackson, wasn't it?
I don't believe so. I don't think they played them last year.
Was it Edwardsville? I'm probably thinking of Edwardsville.
Yeah, I think Edwardsville is who you're thinking about because they lost that one last year. But yeah, this Jackson team, they pulled away in the second half. They just what I'm really impressed with is their defense. I mean, we know that Jackson typically is going to have a good offense, but their defense is really impressing me. Mm-hmm. They hit hard. They're all in all the right places. And I don't know. They look like they're in midseason form. Parsons running the quarterback. He's in total control.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. Parsons looks insane.
Yeah, there's nothing that I have no issues. I mean, there's nothing I see with this team that I'm like, oh, well, that's going to be a problem. I mean, they look really good, and it looks like as good a Jackson team as I've seen in a long time.
I was going to say, it's like improvements from last year. I think heads and shoulders, this is a better team than it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about lines and stuff. Their line is just dominant. I mean, they're so big. And it's like watching a college line. I went to the SEMO game, and they look very similar. I mean, that line for Jackson is really good. And that gives Parsons a lot of time. And Parsons, like I said, is in complete control of that offense. And
I mean, I can't name names because I don't know, but I'm pretty sure there's some SEMO commits on Jackson already.
Yeah, well, there's an Iowa State commit already on their line, and there's another one that's a junior that's getting a lot of D1 looks, bigger than SEMO. So, yeah, they've got some talent on that team.
And we say this every time we talk about Jackson, but it's always exciting because it's like that's the kind of football I want to see in the area.
Oh yeah. That's you have one game to go see, and it's like, oh well, maybe I should go see this Jackson team play because they're really good. But I have a feeling we're getting ready to after this week. They're going to be playing local teams, and for the most part, I think they're going to kind of dominate these local teams.
Absolutely. And then final game, we have Dexter at Sykeston, 39-24.
Yeah, I was at this game. You were at this game. It was a really good game. I felt it was a little bit closer than what the score was. I thought Sykeston has improved a ton over last year. Pierce Baker, I said, in our first episode this year that I thought he was maybe the second best quarterback in the area. And I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the area. I mean, he can put the ball on the money. He can run a little bit. Wish he had more of an offensive line to give him a little more time. But, and he's got a great receiver in Keon Atkins. And I don't know how many balls he caught the other night, but he caught a ton.
Yeah.
Little short passes. They hit one big. But yeah, I mean, they're much better. Dexter, offensive line, we were concerned about them. Doesn't seem to be a concern. They seem to be doing a great job opening holes for Turnbow and for Wernick and Horoyevich, and they had huge holes to run through. That's good because they can't throw the ball, and Dexter's going to have to find a passing game at some point.
Yeah, I tend to be hypercritical of the things I like, and obviously I like. But to me, what worries me is this team looks good now. What do you look like towards the end of the season? How fast do other teams kind of figure out what you have in your bag if you can't bring anything else?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't had to really throw the ball yet. I mean, they've been able to run it, and you hope that, if you're Dexter, that they're going to be able to run it against most teams they play because you do have a really good, what looks like to be a really good offensive line.
Which that was the circumstance last year. You could just run the ball over and over.
But at some point, you're going to need to figure out a way to throw the ball. And I think that's going to be, I'm sure that coaches know that. They know more than we do. So I'm sure they know that, and I'm sure that they're working on that, and they're going to try to get that figured out. But right now, you just go with what your strengths are, and their strengths. They were able to run the ball. There was really no need to throw. They were able to get the yards they needed on the ground, and they need to be a little more disciplined. A lot of penalties there. That really kept Sykeston. I thought there was a time early in that first half that Dexter kind of could have pulled away, and some penalties kind of gave Sykeston some yards and gave them some first downs that they were probably going to be punting, and then they were able to score. So I think some penalties that Dexter really needs to clean that stuff up.
I think, too, you want to talk about special teams and things like that. I mean, punting is going to be something that Dexter's going to have to start working on.
Yeah, both of those teams put on a punting clinic of what not to do. I mean, both those teams just really struggled with the punt game. I think Dexter even tried at one point just a 55-yard field goal just to instead of punting.
It's the situation we saw last year that we scratched our head about.
Right.
Like, what's going on here? Now it all makes sense.
Yeah, the rule change is you get the ball where it goes, where it's at, or the 20-yard line. So yeah, I mean,
Try for field goals.
Yeah, I mean, and it worked better than their punt. So good for them for figuring that out. And both those teams need to work on their punt game. But again, it's early, and neither one of them had to punt in the first game, I don't think, because they both scored so many points. So yeah, that's one of those things that game situations with that kind of will help in that situation, with punt.
Yeah, no, it was exciting to watch. It was exciting to watch Dexter kind of come back, and they're trying to run it back as best they can. But it was exciting to watch a much improved Sykeston team. I think their defense is it's so much better.
Yeah, the linebackers in the back end especially. I think the line play. Dexter was able to dominate the line, and I think that's where Dexter was getting a lot of their yards. They're in their second level by the time Sykeston's able to get to them. So, but other than that, I agree. I think their defense is better, but I'm really impressed with their offense as well. I think against a lot of teams, that's going to be an offense that's going to be tough to deal with.
All right, do you want to get to? It's not called top 10 anymore. I'm going to call it Dave's Dozens.
We can do it.
All right. What do you got?
Okay. We want to start from 12 and work to 1?
12 to 1.
Okay. Well, 12, I've got East Prairie. I mean, and they're, I know they're 0-2, but they're, I really like what I'm seeing from them. And I'm thinking Coach Penrod does a really nice job with them. I think they need to find somebody else to run the ball besides Ware to give him a little bit of a break. But other than that, I like what I'm seeing. They're a young team, and they're going to be getting better.
They definitely have that aspect of, it's not so much a clean slate as it is we've got the most room to improve. And so you can start at 12, but they can go so far up, especially in the next coming seasons.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And then 11, I have Saxony. That's one of the teams I want to see them play like one of these top level teams to see how good they really are.
I'm high on Saxony right now.
And I'm probably ranking them too low. I really am. But I mean, they played Veritas and Donovan. So I need to see them play someone a little bit better. But I have a feeling that by the end of the year, they're going to be a lot higher on my list.
Yeah, I think Saxony, as far as the program goes, one, culture-wise, what I saw at Houck Field was it felt like a ton of people filling up the stands for that team. And they all bought in. So one, you've got your crowd behind you. Mm-hmm. Two, you're very good. I don't know. Just from what I saw on the field at that point, Saxony looks like, I don't want to say they're a sky's the limit team, but it looks like whatever improvements they need to make to be better, they can do it.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I'm probably ranking them too low. I just need to see them play somebody else. But yeah, they've got the excitement behind their program for sure. And then at 10, I have Kennett. They 1-1, big win in week 1. I think they played well this last week, but really this like 7 to 11, you could just put them in a hat and just kind of draw them out. They're all kind of even, but Kennett, I like what I see from Ty Jones. I think they're much improved from last year, and they're a team that's going to be a tough out for a lot of teams this year.
Yeah, I mean, for Kennett, I want to see more area team play, and I mean, it's week 2. That is what it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. It's I can see them being a much improved team than they were last year, obviously.
Yeah. Number 9, I have New Madrid. Again, they're 1-1. They pulled this one out against East Prairie. We'll see a little bit more about them against Dexter this week. But they have the ability to be pretty high. They have that explosive mm-hmm. ability. I need to see their defense get, I felt like their defense did kind of slip this week, but we'll see what happens in the next weeks.
Which, I mean, we're going to talk about upcoming games, but for New Madrid, if East Prairie is going to run the ball on you like that, Dexter's going to run the ball. Like so you're going to have to sheer up that defense there.
Absolutely. I'm sure Dexter's licking their chops after seeing East Prairie run for that many yards. So. Then at number 8, I have Scott City. I really like their week 1 game last week. This week they kind of slipped against Kelly. But
is it an outlier? That's going to be the
exactly. It could be. It could just been a bad game. We said last year every team has one bad game in them for the year. I mean, these are high school kids. Yep. Each team has a game that's just like, man, I don't know what happened with that mm-hmm. game, and maybe this was theirs. And so we'll see. But I've got them at 8, and then of course I've got Kelly at 7, beating them. So I've got Kelly just right above them. And, Kelly's a good team. I mean, I really do. I think they're a lot better than what I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to see. I think Kelly's going to be that sleeper team that, maybe we just didn't talk about enough.
Yeah, it very well could be again because and it's one of those teams where we didn't know what they had coming because they had such a senior laden lineup last year. You didn't really know. So I think that Kelly, I've got them at 7, and then right above them I've got Charleston, who beat them in week 1. So I've got Charleston at 6, maybe a little high, but was that first game an outlier for Kelly? Maybe they just didn't have things figured out that first game, but I have Charleston at 6. Again, they played a tough Potosi team. I'm sure they're looking to get right here against Malden coming up this week. But I've got Charleston at 6, and then flip it right on top of them is their Class 1, District 1 opponent that they're going to have later in the year, Hayti. Hayti, they've got that explosive ability, and I mean it's a team I really like. They clean up those penalties and turnovers. They can be really, really good.
Yeah, I mean we haven't seen Hayti play enough, but beating Porterville, it's good. That's a good win. And we talked about it early. I think Hayti is going to be that team that's just kind of. I've been thinking they're the team to beat, and so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. 5 is a solid spot. It seems a little low to me, but that's just me.
Yeah, and I mean, the teams above them. I mean, Crothersville's right above them. That's the big rival between them. Yeah. So I've got them at 4.
Sure, they love that.
And that'll be some. But I mean, I think they're both really good teams. I don't know how Hayti's not getting any votes in the state poll. Honestly, I think that's kind of surprising. I mean. I would even rank them, but I mean, at least give them a vote or two. But
I think it helps. I feel like people in the Boot Hill feel shorted a lot of times. This does not help the narrative. I feel like they are. If you're not getting any state votes, I mean, I think they should be getting state votes just off of athleticism alone.
Yeah, and like I said, I've got Crothersville at 4. I like Crothersville. I think Crothersville's a good football team. I've kind of been bullish on them this year. They played a St. Pius team. It's not a bad team in week 1 on the road and pulled out that win. And then you take care of Malden. I mean, obviously Crothersville's we're going to figure out how good they are as the year goes on, but I like them. I think they're going to have a great year. I really do. I think their team is going to be tough to deal with. And then at 3, I've got Cape Central. They and Dexter are very kind of my 2A, 2B, honestly. Yeah. And so I've got them at 3 and Dexter at 2. But I like both those teams, but both of them have things that they need to improve on to get better.
And then I'm assuming your number 1 is Jackson.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of a given. Again, I think that's going to be there all throughout the year. That's kind of just Jackson's just a different level team.
So go through your 1 through 12 really quick.
All right, so I got Jackson at 1, Dexter at 2, Cape Central at 3, Crothersville 4, Hayti 5, Charleston 6, Kelly 7, Scott City 8, New Madrid 9, Kennett 10, Saxony 11, and East Prairie at 12. So that's what I've got.
I'm not going to question you too much, but I am going to ask. I don't see any Sykeston Bulldogs on that list.
Oh, my gosh. I forgot all about Sykeston. That is crazy. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so I need to redo this list. Yeah. I'm going to put Sykeston at 5 ahead of Hayti. So we'll move everybody down 1.
Okay.
I'm glad you caught that because that's what happens when you scribble these out right before we come on the show. I'm glad you caught that.
I was listening in. I thought it was a little weird. As soon as we got to 5, I was like, I don't see.
Yeah, we should probably go over these before we come on the show. But yeah, so let's completely change that. We'll put it Sykeston at 5 and then Hayti 6. And then Charleston 7, Kelly 8, Scott City 9, New Madrid 10, Kennett 11, and Saxony at 12. So please forgive me, Sykeston fans, that I let you out.
They'll let you know.
Yeah, that's on me. That's my bad. That's on me. I'll take accountability for that. But that's, again, what happens whenever I scribble these down right before we come on the show.
All right, upcoming games this coming week. We talked about I said I wanted to see Hayti against more teams in the area. We're going to get that. We're going to get Scott City at Hayti.
I like Hayti. I mean, I think their explosive ability is going to be the difference in this game. Would it surprise me if Scott City won this game? No, but I really think that Hayti, we just talked about them. I really think they're going to be a good team. I think they are a good team, but I think they're going to continue to get better. You clean up some of those penalties and turnovers. But if you have a lot of penalties and a lot of turnovers, Scott City is a team that can take advantage of that. But Hayti's my pick in that one.
Yeah, I saw this game last year, and I picked Scott City to win that game last year. I'm picking Hayti. I think Hayti just outspeeds them. Rustin Underwood, I think he's going to get his carries, but I don't know. I just feel like Hayti is kind of the easier pick for me right now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then we've got St. Gen at Kennett.
I'm going to take St. Genevieve. St. Genevieve has quite a bit back from last year. They were pretty good last year from what I saw. Kennett, I think they're still trying to build it up. They're not there yet, but they're getting there. I think this game is a game that could be close, but I still think I like St. Genevieve just because they've just kind of got obviously when Potosi came down here and played Charleston, those teams up north sometimes seem to have an advantage, and I'm going to take St. Genevieve in this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 2-score game. If I had to say 28-14, that's probably something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be a bad game for Kennett. It's just kind of going to be a rougher game than you're expecting.
Right.
And then we've got Crothersville at Duquesne.
Duquesne, I think so.
Duquesne.
I never know how to pronounce that. That's kind of one of those. I think the college is pronounced different than the high school. I don't know. But I'm going to take Crothersville. This team, Duquesne, whatever, they didn't win a game last year, I don't think, or they didn't have a very good year. I'm going to take Crothersville in this one.
Yeah, and you kind of want to take a more hometown team in that sense. And Crothersville's coming off a big win against Malden. We saw what that kind of did for Dexter, and I don't know. I mean, Crothersville, I think, they're probably, I would say, favored for me in this game too. But I want to see more of them. I want to see them struggle a little bit just to see like what we got. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a game they take care of. They've got some tough games coming down the stretch. We'll see. We'll find out a lot about them then.
And then we got Father Tolton Regional Catholic at East Prairie.
Father Tolton's a pretty good team, and Father Tolton's coming down to East Prairie. I think they're going to take care of business. I mean, it's a tough matchup for East Prairie. Just a tough matchup. Father Tolton's they're pretty solid, so I'm going to take them.
Were they a team last year that just kind of showed up and started taking care of business? I can't honestly remember.
Yeah. Father Tolton's they're a good team. They're up in up in the northern part of the state. I think they're up in Columbia, if I'm not mistaken.
Obviously, we saw them during basketball. I didn't know if that translated to football or not.
Yeah, they're in Columbia, and they're just a solid football team. It's gonna be tough matchup for East Prairie.
I know there's always reasons for why these teams are on the schedule, but they always make me scratch my head. It's just like, what is this team doing here?
That's kind of what I was thinking without saying. Is like I'm not sure why they're playing Father Tolton, but sometimes you're just trying to find a game, and that's somebody that fits in that week, but yeah, I think East Prairie might be a little overmatched in this game. But again, you got Tavion Ware, and he's proven he can handle a load.
Maybe he'll get 45 carries this game.
Yeah, maybe.
Then we've got Jackson at Edwardsville. I'm excited to see how this game pans out because I watched this game live last year, and it was one of those times where I watched it and looking at that Jackson team, I was immediately just like, oh my gosh, this is kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Not in the sense that like it was a bad game. It was a bad game for Jackson. So a much improved Jackson team going to Edwardsville. I'm excited to see what they might do.
Yeah. And I don't think Edwardsville is what they were last year. I know they've started off the year 0-2. They play a tough early schedule. They're like Jackson. They kind of load their schedule heavy early. But I like Jackson in this one. I think it's kind of their this beginning of this year is kind of their get revenge tour over last year. And I think this year is going to be, I don't know. I just kind of like Jackson in this game. I think Edwardsville, like I said, not quite as good. Jackson's a lot better than they were last year at this time. So I'm going to take Jackson.
We kind of talked about this one earlier, but Dexter at New Madrid County.
Yeah, I like Dexter in this, but New Madrid County, They've got the ability to make those big plays, and Dexter's going to have to limit the big plays. If they can do that, Dexter, I think, rolls in this game. But at the same time, that big play ability is tough to stop sometimes. I like Dexter to win, but I think New Madrid can make this a game. And this could be one of those games where it's kind of high scoring. I think that's if New Madrid wins this game, I think it's a high scoring game. I think that New Madrid's able to put some points up against Dexter, but I think ultimately Dexter wins this.
Yeah, I think for New Madrid, it might be a passing game situation. That's the only thing I've seen. That's what I saw Sykeston do well against Dexter. If New Madrid takes the same route, I feel like it's going to be, like you said, they make big plays when they need to, and if that's how it translates, that's gonna become an issue.
Yeah, New Madrid's gonna have to protect their quarterback in order to give him enough time to get the ball down the field. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And if they can do that, then I think they can score. But that's the key. Can you do that? Because
on the flip side, if Dexter runs the ball down your throat and you can't stop them,
yeah, and they showed no ability to stop the run against East Prairie, and I'm sure Dexter's going to watch that film and kind of recreate some of that on their own. So yeah, it's a tough matchup for New Madrid, I think, but it's one that I think Dexter wins. But I think I'm hoping New Madrid, shows a little bit more than what they did last year against Dexter.
Next up, we've got Confluence Prep Academy at Portageville.
Yeah, I don't know much about Confluence Prep.
This is what we say every time Confluence shows up.
You never know what you're going to get with them. I'm going to go Portageville just because
it's at Portageville.
And I feel like they're due. I feel like they played a really good half of football against Hayti, and I think they just need to put a little bit more together, and I think they can win it. So I'm going to go Portageville in this game, knowing absolutely nothing about what Confluence Prep is bringing to the table. Confluence, they could come down with a bunch of D1 guys, and I'd then be like, "Whoops, didn't know." But I'm going to go Portageville.
Yeah, you would think for Portageville, this is like, okay, this is our get right game.
Yeah,
let's get the season back in order.
Yeah, and hopefully that is. I think Portageville needs to win, needs some good vibes down there, and again, like I said, they played a really good first half against Hayti. Just kind of build off that.
Next up, this is going to be on the Bulldog Nation Network. This is Cape Central at Sikeston.
Man, I think this is going to be a really good game. I really think this is going to be a good game. Two teams that don't like each other.
Yep.
Do not like each other at all.
The ingredients are there for this to be very competitive.
And typically, Sikeston for the most part plays well against Cape Central, in all sports really. So yeah, I'm going to take, even though I forgot about them a minute ago in the, even though I forgot about them, I'm going to go Sikeston with an upset here.
Really?
Yeah. I was thinking Cape Central, but Cape Central's got a really good defense, but I just really think Sikeston is going to be able to score. And so I'm going to go Sikeston with an upset.
I'm going to say 21-14 Cape.
And you could very well be right. I mean, this is one of those games that I hope is what I've building up in my mind. I hope it's that good of a game. But
I've heard you do this before, though.
I know, and then it just then it comes out 40-0, the other way. But this Sikeston team has a different feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, credit to where it's due. This is a much improved Sikeston team.
25 straight SEMO North Conference losses for Sikeston. 25 straight. Last one was 2018. But who'd they beat? Cape Central. And I'm gonna say they beat Cape Central. I'm gonna put some faith behind them, and then whenever they lose, if they lose, then I'm gonna forget them next week on the poll too.
Okay. And then on A-Corp Sports, we've got Charleston at Malden.
Yeah, I think Charleston takes care of business here.
I think so too.
And I think Malden's just, I mean, they've got to find something at some point. But Charleston, I think this is a get right game for them. And if you're Charleston, you want to go down there and take care of business and take care of it early. Get on them early and kind of whenever you've been beat 61-0 2 straight games, if you're Malden, at some point you don't have any. You're just trying to stay positive and have.
You're going deep down to pull something out.
Yeah, because I'm like, man, it's you just don't want to think. Doom is the day or whatever. It's just kind of one of those. You don't want to get down early for Malden. You want to get something, have some success early, give you a little bit of positivity. And if you're Charleston, you just want to put them down early and stay on them.
Absolutely. All right. I mean, that's going to be our week 3. David, any thoughts?
No. Apologize to Sikeston again. I'm going to hear about it. But yeah. I think we're going to find out a little bit more about some teams this week and some good matchups. I like that Dexter New Madrid game. I like the Cape Central Sikeston game. Jackson Edwardsville. I think those are some really good games on tap this week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. This has been the SEMO Sports Zone. We'll catch you next week.